Good evening. Hello. Welcome. Hi. Can you hear me? First of all, I want to apologize for an absence tonight. Our Historical Society president, Jim Nelson, is in the hospital, so he is not here to greet you himself. So I'm sitting in for him tonight. He is doing fine. He just had gallbladder surgery. He'll be out in a day or two. So Jim wasn't able to be with us tonight, which he sends his regrets as well. So I'm Jeff Day, the curator for the museum, and I won't talk long, I promise. I do want to introduce the invocation for this evening and let you know that a couple of things in regards to the food stations, which are available on the far north side of the building. You can see them from here. We also, in front of those, are the silent auction tables. So take a look at all the items. We got some very cool things for the silent auction tonight. And there is also a sales table just to the right as well with some items from the museum that we are selling, including we're now taking pre-orders for the new sweatshirts and t-shirts for the museum with a logo designed by Bill Morrison. So I know you'll want to take a look at that as well. And we can take your orders if you would like a shirt tonight. And also I want to mention that we are very excited that this is really the largest group we've had in, well, we haven't met annually since 4 years. But even before that, I don't think we had 135 people for any of our dinners. So yeah. And I think I know why we have so many here tonight. It's not a surprise that everybody loved Clemente. So we're looking forward to Ed's talk a little bit later. Please take time to eat and relax. Enjoy the music from Johnny and Darren tonight. And welcome. Thank you for being here.
Let us pray. Our loving and gracious God, we give you great thanks for this opportunity to gather with so many friends who support the history and progress of our beloved city of Lincoln Park. We come together because of the people who have given much of their God-given talents and energies to this endeavor: the trustees, the board of directors, the commission, and the curator of the Historical Society. In the 4 years since we last gathered, we lift up to you, eternal God, the souls of those whose lives we mourn. The 37 dear individuals listed here are known to you and remembered as a faithful part of our society, our city, our churches, and our families. We ask you, God, to hold them close to you as we hold them in our cherished memories. And we thank you, God, who provides more to us than we can ask or imagine, for the generosity of our benefactors who give these auction items, the use of this facility, the delicious food that we're catching a whiff of, and the entertainment that we are enjoying. But most of all, we give you thanks tonight for the 80 amazing years that the Clemente family has been a vital part of this business community in Lincoln Park, as well as a continuing presence in the well-being of our city. We break bread and pizza. We break bread and pizza together as a community, recognizing that we are united under your care in order to protect, to promote, and preserve the blessings you have bestowed upon us. Remember those not as fortunate as we, who do not have enough food, companions, or joy, that we may always be aware of our obligation to share the bounty that we have with others. We ask this prayer in the name of all who gather and the joy that we all share. Amen.
He's got greasy hair, greasy smiles. Oh, this must be my destination, Lincoln Park. 'Cause he told me when I was younger, said, boy, you're gonna be the president. But just like you've been out of those crazy dreams, I can't tell. Oh, but ain't that America? You and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby, ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah. Little big houses for you and me. How you doing, my friend? Hey. What do they know? Go to work in some high rise. Get a vacation out to go to Mexico. Ooh, yeah. And there's winners and there's losers. If that ain't no big deal, was a simple man made and pays for thrills with bills and pills that kill. Oh, but ain't that America? You and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby, ain't that America? One of the free, and big houses for
Items of business to take care of before we, yes, sir. Did you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, Mike Horvath.
Well, I requested we do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. And there's a flag right there. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mike. I also want to take a moment to thank Reverend Paula Miller, who delivered the invocation quite eloquently, I might add, prior. Thank you so much. We're moving now into the program part of the evening. There will be some recognitions as well. We would like to draw your attention to the fact that there are here tonight several local government dignitaries, officers, elected officials. So we would like to take a moment to recognize those. Probably because we're looking at an event celebrating the Clementes, maybe I should start with the Clemente family. Cara Clemente is right here. She is the Wayne County Commissioner for this district, newly elected in November. We wish her well with her elected office. Also, our mayor here of Lincoln Park, Mike Higgins. I don't know if Tullio is here. Tullio Liberati is. Yes? No? Okay. I think, and then also our city council representatives are here. We have, I believe, 3 or 4 of the council members. Lillian Ross. Lillian is the liaison between the Historical Museum Commission and the city council, so we appreciate all of her support. We also want to recognize Jason Baer, well, and Maureen Tobin is here somewhere. Okay, well, thank you, Maureen. Anyone else from the council? Okay, thank you for being here. I'd like to invite Mike Higgins up for a moment if you'd like to say a few words. Mayor?
Hello and, oh, is this working? Hello and welcome tonight. Is this great? We get out and we get to see each other again, like old friends. And it's kind of like having Clemente's back. We can get someplace and sit down and talk and have a good time. Clemente's meant so much to Lincoln Park. Lincoln Park has always been a great city, but what's made a great city is our community. Our community is we've always been able to get together, sit down, have a nice pizza. A nice sauerkraut pizza. Who remembers the sauerkraut pizza? But Clemente's was something more special than that. Clemente's was kind of like the United Nations. And I say this because after every single council meeting, the council, no matter how much we fought, no matter how much we argued on the floor of that building, that night, it wouldn't matter what side you were on. And over the years, there were a lot of feuds and the council was split in half a lot of times. But when you got to Clemente's, everybody was friends, everybody shared a beer, everybody had some pizza. And many problems, and I can tell you for a fact, the city was saved more than one time with a good beer and some good pizza. And I just want to say thank you to the Clemente family for all that you have done for our city. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, Kara, could you come up here, please? I brought a few of these because I want to give some to the family. I'm giving you the key to the city because Clemente's is what shaped Lincoln Park. And here you go. Here's one for you and one for the family.
Thank you, thank you. I'm just going to say a few words. I said I wasn't going to talk, but I'm going to talk. I am so fortunate that I married into this family. They welcomed me, and I got to learn so much from Joe and Alice and Mike and Monica and Bobby about owning a business. Oh, of course, my husband, Paul. Can't forget him. And Joe let me learn how to make the sauce with Alice and do so much in the business. I helped Aunt Rose with the waitresses, and it was really home. And it was very sad, but it gave the family some time to relax and have great memories. And you never know, it might come back in Lincoln Park. We'll see. But thank you so much, and I'm glad to be a part of this community, and our new mayor has been doing a lot of wonderful things, and I hope a lot of people will come out and help us keep Lincoln Park memories alive. So thank you.
I don't want to hog up the night. I don't want to say things to man, but what I do have something to say. Our museum, this is a fundraiser, guys. We need some money, and I want everybody to recognize that we got an auction going on over there. Please look at the stuff, look at it. I'm going to later on this evening, there's a basket from the Clemente family that I'm going to be auctioning off myself. Think about it, the museum needs the money. And there's a 50-50 over there. Please, you can't win unless you get some money in there. That's make it happen. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. April 27th, and I'm going to try to keep this brief, but April 27th is a significant date in the history of our community. It was 260 years ago on this date. Now think back, this is before there was a lot of history in this area. Of course, the French occupied Detroit until that year of 1760, when the British took over the forts across the Great Lake area. In 1763, we experienced a seminal moment in Michigan history with the opportunity for many of the native tribes in the region of the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley came together to try to boot out the British. And this was led by Chief Pontiac. Many of us know the name Pontiac, but we may not know the history of why we know Pontiac. And he was an Ottawa chief and brought together all of the tribes of the Great Lakes region who met actually here on the banks of the Ecorse River on April 27th. What's that? Council Point, yes. We call it Council Point today because of the War Council that met there on that date. And so that is a significant date for us. 10 years ago, when we had the 250th anniversary, and I know some of you were there at that time, we had a very, very nice ceremony celebrating not only the work that Pontiac had done, but also the family of Pontiac. The seventh generation of Pontiac's descendants were there with us on April 27th and conducted their Eagle ceremony at that time with music, and it was just really a wonderful moment. I know many of you experienced that. So we look back 10 years ago, and we certainly look back 260 years ago to those moments as well and remember them the way they should be remembered. So. We also have a number of people, I believe it was 37, is it, Paula? The names were 37 names? Yeah. 37 of the Historical Society members that we have lost in the last 4 years, just 4 years. Those names are on your program tonight. Take a moment. I know that you know some of them, maybe most of them. And they're certainly all of our friends for many years. Maybe we would put, I don't know if I want to put anybody at the top of that list, but certainly Muriel Lobb, who had run the museum for many, many years, as you know, lived to be over 105 years old, and Muriel passed away in March. So we were sorry to hear that, of course, but we also celebrate the long life that she had and what she had done for this community and her family as well. Sadly, Muriel outlived all 3 of her children, so it was bittersweet for her to live a long life as she did. But we all celebrated that together last month. We gathered at the museum and talked a lot about her and what she had done for not only the museum, but the Lincoln Park community. And the others that are on that list, please just take a moment and look through those. Tonight, we've also got a moment to make a thank you to somebody who has retired recently from the board of directors. And I want to recognize Dolores Walker. Dolores, I know you're here. Dolores. Dolores served faithfully on the board of the directors for over 20 years. She was vice president for a time. She was very influential in the programming that was brought to the museum. Many of the speakers that came to us because of Dolores's work. So we're very, very grateful for all that she had done. Certainly at least 20 years, I know. So Dolores, we have some flowers for you. And I should add that we have a vacancy on our board. So if anybody is interested in becoming a trustee on our board for the museum, for the Historical Society, you can talk to any of us that are here tonight that are on the board. Linda and Jim Mixter down at that end. B. Partridge is over at the first table, or myself. I'm not on the board, but I'll be happy to take your information. Jim Nelson, as I mentioned, the president, is not here. He's been hospitalized, but he will be back with us in a couple days. Alice Riggs, who is also on the Board of Trustees, has been vacationing in Albuquerque. Shame on her, all winter. So she'll be back. I did want to, at this time, introduce our program for the evening, and I'm going to ask Ed if he would especially say a few words about the two ladies that we're honoring, if you would do that. Thank you.
You're going to present it?
Yeah.
Okay. So tonight we have both my aunts here. I have three aunts, actually, but two aunts that are specifically in the Clementes. My Aunt Rose, who was born actually in 1925, the year the city actually became a city, along with her husband, Uncle Chuck, who was born in Lincoln Park, too, as well, at the same year. And then also my Aunt Alice, who's my godmother, and obviously she was married to Uncle Joe, and we know he passed away not too long ago, but we appreciate everything Aunt Alice did. Obviously, you heard stories about her making sauce already, so there was a lot of different things going on, but mainly we appreciate them both for being here tonight, and they're the ones that really sort of made the foundations for the family, and we really appreciate everything they've done in the past. So thank you. I don't want to give out their ages, but you can ask them if you want. What? Yeah, it's Michael Clemente right there. Anything else, Jeff? Is that it, or is there nothing else? Okay. So I'm Ed Clemente, and let me just give you a couple of prefaces. I've done this podcast. I've done this presentation once before for at the museum, actually, and we had close to 100 people that night, actually. And as you know how small the museum is, it was kind of jammed in there. So this is a lot different atmosphere than the last time. But I also want to mention, you see me wearing this shirt. I usually don't dress this nice, but this is my dad's shirt, actually, when he bowled at Clemente, so it's got to be at least 70 years old. But, so I don't know if he was an egotist, but it's just his name, which also happens to be my name, too, so it pays off. I can still wear it. So anyway, just a little bit about, before I get into the quick parts, but this presentation is primarily about my grandparents, Natalina and Giuseppe, and then their three kids, which would have been Aunt Rose, my dad, Big Ed, and Uncle Joe. So anyway, so we'll start jumping in this right now, and because this is really about how the business started now. So that's an old picture of Clemente's. Now, anyone probably under a certain age, that was before they fixed it up. And actually, Joe Turinsky is the one that did a lot of the remodeling for Clemente's. A lot of people know him from the club, from the society. So just, I told you, I started this out only because I think someone had a fire, I know, and all their pictures burned up. So then I started sort of circulating with all my relatives to start collecting pictures and then scanning them all in. So I was only showing it for family stuff, and then Jeff asked me one time if I'd want to show it, so I put it into like a PowerPoint, and there's only like 500 other more pictures, so be happy I put in just this many. So, so primarily I wanted to highlight both my grandparents and their three kids, and a lot of our paisans, our employees, and a lot of the customers. And I put down 70 plus years. I don't know where the other 10 came from, so I guess we're 80. but I think it is 80, because that'll give part of the story why we're 80. So this is actually from the last one we just did. This was, Jeff, about 4 years ago, I presume? Yeah, it was right before COVID. And so we had a big crowd for that, and that's Uncle Joe sitting in the front, Aunt Rose, and then Aunt Alice, and that's me with the same shirt that's underneath, I might add. It's been washed since. So these are some renderings, and the only reason I put these in here, you can see Clemente's is remodeled at that point, and that's the Clemente's most people knew then. But these two renderings was for a sign. They were going to have like a revolving sign at one time that said bowling. So I've got that. And then when they started tearing down the wall, you started seeing this one here, actually when they were tearing down the bowling alley. So you'll see another picture, but Clemente's was in 3 sections. The one section was the bar, the next section was the restaurant, and then we added on the 6 lanes afterwards. So there's another picture, and Monica, what anniversary was this for your mom and dad at Cabrini? 70? No. I can't remember. It was. Yeah. You look the same, Aunt Alice. Don't worry. Okay. So anyway, but that was for their anniversary, and then this was the obituary for Uncle Joe when that happened. But we did a lot with Cabrini. Almost all of us Clemente kids print to Cabrini, at least the high school. I think I was the oddball. I went to St. Henry's. And then this is about 3 stories quickly. It's about not just Clemente's, but it's also the story of Lincoln Park, as you heard from quite a few people, like the mayor. Clemente's was kind of not the only bar or the only restaurant in the city, but is where everybody kind of went. And you'll see some other pictures in here, but we were best pizza downriver, but I think it was more the ambiance of the restaurant that really brought the people in. It was not necessarily that we were the fancy fine, there was actually a fancier restaurant, Pepina's, probably some of you remember that place, but that was a little higher scale, and we knew Mary really well, the one that owned it, but we used to help them all the time with some of the pizza ovens and all those kind of things. But this is also the American story, and because they were immigrants, my dad was, and so it's about coming to America and sort of figuring out how you make your niche. And I would put in a plug right now for Lincoln Park. I tell you, the best thing, I love Lincoln Park right now. I live over by Good Shepherd, but my neighbors, like half are Hispanic, half are Yemenis. So it's almost like the immigration population's changing again in the city, and it's really good. They take a good job. They take care of their lawns. They do all that stuff. So Lincoln Park, I think, is really turning around right now, and I appreciate all the council people and mayor, how it's a challenge. Another older picture, and this actually, Jeff Donofrio made this card. I'll give him a plug. He's sitting over here. But that was the one you made for what anniversary? Do you remember, Jeff? That was when we closed, 2010. That's right. He was giving them out. Brief history. So some of the stuff is maybe, there's no children in the room, right? Okay. So this is, my grandpa came over in 1916. This was a kind of a common practice in the old days, but when they came over, they sometimes would leave their wife and kids in the country, and the guys would come over. And so he left when my grandma was pregnant with my dad, and he didn't meet his dad till he came over. I think he was like 8 or 9 when he came over. And the one funny story is, because he didn't know who his dad, he never met him before. And so he was like 8 or 9 years old, and the first thing he asked him for was a cigarette, and he was like 11 years old. And so I think smoking was started pretty early in Italy. So when they came over, they moved to a couple other cities, Donora and also Erie, Pennsylvania, both in Pennsylvania. They ended up living on Hale Street, which I don't even know if it exists anymore, but the Eastern Market is, I think, eaten up their old Italian neighborhood. So it was just over there. Maybe there's still a Hale Street, maybe on GPS, but I don't know. And then that's when they earned the money for them to come over. And he actually met his dad the first time on Ellis Island. So that tells you when they came over. So this is where they came from, Rockapia. It looks really beautiful in this picture. And it is a beautiful city, and I've been there, and a few of us in the audience have been here too. But it's in the mountains, and the funny thing about it, like when they left Italy, because I think they were trying to get away from Mussolini back then, they came over, and the village was maybe 150 people. If you go there today, it's still about 150 people. There's more people live in this area than live in the village anymore. But it's one other thing, and I'll just need another slide on this, but It's like 90 miles due east of Rome. On the Adriatic side is the province, Abruzzo is the name of the province or state. So these are my grandparents, different pictures of them. So this is the 80-year angle. So Clemente's legally opened up in 1933, and let's just say they got into the business early of when Prohibition ended. So they were already making some things and in the basement at the house that Kara lives in, actually. Yeah, and my dad used to say his mom made the best whiskey in town, and so when I think Uncle Joe used to tell me we were the 65th license in the state. So they numbered them back then, so we had the 65th license in the area. So this is also when Lincoln Park became a city. It said my Uncle Chuck was born, and three big things kind of I'll walk you through, but it went through Prohibition, the Depression, and World War II, and that's when a lot of I thought the more interesting history of Clemente's was, but you think about it, they opened during the Depression, 1929, they opened in 1933. So the bar originally was on Fort Park, which if you go down here like 3 blocks, that's Fort Park. And then I'll just tell you a couple stories. So Fort Wayne, I got Fort Wayne up here. So back then, I don't know how many of you guys all know where Fort Wayne is probably, but that's where a lot of the POWs came from World War II. And we were sort of the closest Italian restaurant, so it was both Germans and Italians. So a lot of those Italians, they were given work release to come and visit relatives, because a lot of them had relatives in this area. So they would come to Clemente's, and they'd have all these POWs eating at the bar, and meeting their families, and it was just like Uncle Joe's one even told me that story, I didn't even know it. And then my mom used to talk about the Immaculate Conception of one of her cousins who got pregnant from one of the POWs. And back then, when you were a POW, you had to be repatriated back to Italy. So she had to go back with him. And I didn't know that story till the girl was like in her 30s. But it was a good story. So more pictures of the bar, Lincoln Park in the old days. This one building is still there. I mean, you can drive down to 4th Street in Southfield, and that building is still there. That's my dad tending bar, that's me tending bar, and that's my mom making spaghetti sauce. Her and Aunt Alice used to make it together all the time. That's even some of the older bar before, if you can tell, this is before the bowling alley was even added on. So it was just really thin at the time. And then we bought a gas station next door, which became the Italian kitchen. And that's kind of where Grandma and my mom worked, and that's where we did a lot of the prep work for the sauces, spaghetti, fish, we did everything over there. I didn't throw you in a second time, sorry. So it was on Fort Park, but we moved over to, when they built the new highway, it moved to 4th Street. And so when I went to 4th Street, the Clemente's that was the original Clemente's is now an apartment complex. It was tore down. But back in those days, it was the bar was in the front, then there was like a little courtyard, and they all lived behind it. The house was behind it, so it was all connected at one point. And the rumor was the courtyard, my dad used to wrestle people supposedly. There was like a big sawdust pile there, and he used to wrestle customers for beers. And so you'll see a picture of my dad wrestling here in a few minutes. That's my grandma Olympia, great-great-grandma, I should say. That's I don't even know her name, but I know that's my other grandma that I never met. I never met either one of these two. And the far side is Mose, my other grandpa, my mom's dad. This is the old Clemente's. This is the original bar in Fort Park. That's my grandpa standing up in the middle. I don't know any of these other guys. That's my grandpa again, tending bar at the old bar. And this is my dad down below here in the white shirt. Well, there's a picture of my dad with hair, which I never saw before. And so this is also the neighborhood, that same intersection. I have a really crappy map I'll show you in a minute to point all this out. But the Shirellis were over there. They were from Rockapia. The Leones were on that same corner, and then we were on the corner. So basically it was 3 Rockapians all on the same corner. This is my great map. So let me point stuff out. You won't hear me, but this is where Aunt Rose lives right now. This is where Paul and Kara live. This is where Clemente's was. This is Ford Street. This is where the Italian kitchen. Shorty's. This was Shirelli's was right there, and then the original bar. And the Lincoln Park Museum is over here. There was also another Fort Park Bowling, and this is where Lincoln Park City Hall is now. But the map works, so I'm happy. This is actually more pictures from Rockapia. That's me under a sign from Rockapia. We used to have these huge picnics all the time. Yeah, there's a lot of different people in these, but so the picnics were all over the place, but primarily they used to be in London, Ontario, because half of the paisans lived up in Toronto, so that was like a halfway point for us to all have our Italian picnics. And the most important picture here in this whole thing is this is me with my hair. And yeah, don't take any pictures, please. I'm moving it on, yes. So, but I used to keep combs in it. Okay. So these are our paisans, like Larry Jesus here in the back. Wave your hand, Larry, so they see you. So they're our very close cousins, the Perfettos, the Fideas, the Shirellis, the Ciottes, Leones, Amorosis, Amacuccis, Toso, Rocco, Bruscas, Ciolas. So, in fact, Mickey Ciola he worked here for the high school. And he was a good paisan. So this is a book. Are you selling these? I forgot. Are you selling these tonight?
We have one in the basketball.
Okay, there's one with baskets, but you can buy a book on Lincoln Park, and there's pictures of Clemente's in it and the Shirellis. This is the cover of the book. That's the grandfather for the Shirellis. St. Henry's was a big deal for us. That's where my grandma and that's where their first church was, the parish in the city. And that's the statue of St. Henry's. And this is like when St. Henry's closed in 2014. I took Aunt Rose to the last mass there. There's another critical photo here. There's me with a mustache. I know you can't see it on that side, but it's not worth seeing. And then the better photo is me. I was an altar boy for 12 years. So that's me with the huge lamb chop sideburns, the little short guy. And that was Father Miller, yes, interesting guy. This is the Knights of Columbus, which just moved over on 4th Street. Now it's over closer to me, but this is where it used to be on Outer Drive. That's my high school, grade school, 8th grade picture from St. Henry's. Yeah, Mark Horvath is in it, or Mike Horvath. I mean, yeah, Mike's in that photo. And then there's more claims. Not that I'm the protagonist in the story, but I want you to appreciate my pants in this photo. They look like prisoner pants. I don't know. That style must have been popular at some point. There's my grandma again when, I don't know how old she was. They were pretty young. Wow. And more. So we called her grandma, but some people called her Nona, but most of the customers called her Mama Clemente. Everybody knew her as that, and she'd sit in the same spot all the time. People would go talk to her. They bring their kids over. She was like the icon for the whole place. Different people, Ilona Varga, Kara's predecessor. She used to come visit with Aunt Rose. That's my old boss, Jim DeSane. I used to be staff in the legislature back then in those days. And we would have a big party for every birthday. Frank Saul is in this picture. So there's a lot of different, as Mike was pointing out, a lot of elected officials came to the bar. So this is more of Grandma. Those are Monica's 3 kids, right? Jeff is the tall one, right, Jeff? And Joe, and then Jeff. Eric, when I say Jeff Choice. This is one of my favorite photos, only because that's Uncle Joe, Uncle Chuck, Aunt Rose, and Aunt Alice, and you were her maid of honor, right? In Wyoming. So I'll get to more of the military stories, but I had 5 uncles in World War II. My other aunt is here, Aunt Thelma. Go ahead, wave your hand, Aunt Thelma, so they see you here. Her husband was also Uncle Tiki. He used to come to a lot of our events and sing songs. You would have remembered him. So they were best men for them in Wyoming, and I think they only had like a week's notice, and they flew out there and flew back. Bart, wasn't even that much? That was their honeymoon.
Yeah, they got married on August 12th, and then Aunt Rose and Uncle Chuck on the 19th.
Yeah, they got married, that close to each other.
There and stood up for them, their honeymoon.
Yeah, it was kind of a unique situation, but, Uncle Chuck stayed in. At this time, Uncle Joe was out of the service. This is a lot of the family members. Monica's in here. And then all of Bobby, Paul, Michael. Where's Michael? Raise your hand too. And Monica, you must raise your hand. You've been talking. They should see who you are. And then that's Mike, actually at Mike's house, actually with Uncle Chuck. Isn't that your old house? Yeah, that's your current house, right? Yeah. This is like all the next generations, all the stuff we've been doing for jobs. It's across the board. There's too many to mention, but there is a lot of activities in the third and fourth generation still. More family pictures. My dad, you can't tell, but Uncle Chuck and Uncle Joe usually had Cadillacs, and my dad would buy when they were old and depleted and run them till they died, usually my dad. Anyone who knew my dad, he drove around the old Cadillac through all Lincoln Park. Everybody knew him. He was such a nice guy, he would he couldn't do this today, but he would always keep a lot of candy and pizza, and he would go to like Lincoln Park right here. He would come to the high school all the time, give kids candy bars, couldn't do that today. But he was like, by far, like really well-liked. Kids would come all the time to see him.
A lot of people to school too. He would pick.
Oh, he'd pick kids up, give them rides to school. My dad was a super nice guy. So these are just more, so the only thing I mentioned here is everything happened at Clemente's from a celebration. If you're looking at like what is important for your family, but we did first communions, confirmations, we do people's wedding announcements, everything was here. We also, as a family, had Christmas here every year at the restaurant, and then we also had the employees' Christmas party always at the restaurant. And it was always huge amounts of people, even when the days we were closed. And Clemente's only closed like 2 or 3 days a year back then. I think it wasn't until later that Uncle Joe took a week off, right? When we started closing for a week in the summer. More of the Clemente's, different ages, nothing. Yeah, that's when we, so one of these pictures, I don't know if you noticed, but this wall here in Clemente's used to be nothing but like scenes of Venice. It was like a big giant wallpaper of all Venice, and then it got all covered up, but when you were tearing it down, you could see the Venice again. I think we'll find one picture. There's one of my dad's cars. You can see which one. That's Jimmy. Jimmy's right here with the hat on, the white hat. That's Mike's mom and dad, Mike Donofrio. Let's see, who's in here? These are the Shirellis. These are, those are the mini Shirelli. And then this is my side family, my mom's side. And these are more paisans. That's Tony Jesu. That's the only picture I told you. I know your uncle was in here, Larry. More Clemente parties. Again, my mustache is still in there. El Perfetto, very close relative to the family. That's Vince Ciotti. He was very close to my grandma. I don't know if they were first cousins. I can't remember, but they were pretty tight. He was in the bar like all the time. Some of these pictures are already getting old on me on the thing. So that's my dad. He was a Golden Gloves boxer. I think he won a championship too, one of them. But that's him with his mom, and he had hair, which is always surprising. The picture in the middle, which is kind of faded, my mom was a waitress at Clemente's. That's where they met. And so that's him and her when they got married. Well, I don't know if they were married yet, hopefully. That's my dad when he became a citizen. And this picture here, which is hard to see, but that's my grandma and my grandpa when they first came over on Ellis Island. So here's some interesting stories. So my dad is this guy here, but he played football. So there were a lot of like semi-pro football teams like in the area back then. And he played for this team called it was the German Inn. And back then, originally, we were called the Italian Village, it was Italian Village. And so you got to remember, we were that during the 30s, and then all of a sudden, World War II rolls around, and the city fathers back then asked us to change our names. So we changed ours to Clemente's, and the German Inn called themselves Dow's. And then we stayed with Clemente's, and I think they went back to the German Inn after the war, but it was a different era back then. That's my dad in the hat. Looks kind of like he should have been somewhere from Chicago, it looks like. And that's him with a boxing trophy up there. That's him wrestling. That's what I said, he used to wrestle. I don't know if anyone ever heard of Ring Magazine, but Ring Magazine was the magazine for wrestling and boxing for a long time. That's him with the guy that was the publisher, Nat Flesher, and my dad used to, and he had hair there too, which is good. Is Aunt Rose here now? That's her for her graduation from Lincoln Park High. She graduated from Lincoln Park High, and that's Uncle Chuck, obviously, when he was in the service. There's Aunt Rose again, Uncle Chuck. She's a cute-looking Italian, isn't she? Yeah, she is. That's her. She came to visit me at Liquor Control. I threw in John Dingle on the bottom because he always looked like Uncle Chuck. He didn't like it, but he liked it. This is the nicest photo in here. I'm being sarcastic, but this photo here, that's actually my Uncle Chuck and his buddy dressed in drag for Halloween one year. And that's their mom. Their mom dressed them for it. He was Scottish. He would have bagpipers at a lot of his events. He had a lot of parties at his house. Oh, by the way, well, that's the Venice, yeah. You can see it. It's hard for you guys to see here, but that's the painting that used to be on the walls for the place. Here's Uncle Joe and Aunt Alice. And I can't remember. This was another anniversary, Aunt Alice. Do you remember which one it was? I don't know. But like the one guy I want to show you here, this is like one of Uncle Joe's best friends, and he got killed. They signed up, I think, in the service together, and he didn't come back. And he was a Lincoln Park High graduate. Uncle Joe, I believe, was 17 when he entered, or pretty close to it. Yeah, there was, and I think his senior year was like the year he enlisted too. I'll tell you two other stories while we're on a little bit of a military page. So I think Uncle Joe so he was a Marine, so he spent a lot of his time in like different islands in, the Polynesian. He had shrapnel in his leg. I think it was more than one piece. He had quite a few still in his leg his whole life. And when he got older, it was like a limp, but it was because some of that shrapnel was pressing right against some of his veins, so they couldn't take it out. But the thing that's the most interesting, considering like we're talking, with China today in the world, his job, once they got to Japan, and he was there obviously when they bombed Japan, but his first job after that was he had to go to China, and who's ever heard of Tsingtao beer? Anyone? Well, good. Jeff did. Glad you're a drinker, Jeff. But the Tsingtao beer is a city on the coast, and what was happening, if you know the history at all, Japan had like almost 2 million people in China, like during the war. And at the end of the war, they had to all be evacuated because the Chinese were killing them like mad. So Uncle Joe's job, somewhat, they had a base there, and they had to protect the Chinese as they were putting them on U.S. ships to repatriate them back to Japan. And he used to tell me it was just crazy how they would see these guys getting shot. He was stationed there for a while after the war. And one other thing about Uncle Chuck, he was there a long time in the service, but then near the end of the war, he started getting more into, I don't know what he was doing, but he was like stationed after the war, like in Norway and these places, and I think he built out all the radio-free Europe. So he was like part of that whole mission to indoctrinate people to look at the Cold War stuff. This is Aunt Alice with her two sisters. Middle is Tante Mare and then Anne. And they met, she was a Canadian, and we'll see, I think there's a picture of Irene LeBlanc on here, but we'll bring that up. So this is more family members. There's Josephine Bazzi. Where's Roberto? And that's, you can't see from where you're sitting, but Josephine's in the picture with Aunt Rose. Yeah, and then this is another picture of my side of the family here in the corner. This is more my side, and there's Aunt Alice's side up in the corner too. And then there's El Perfetto. Here's one of our menus. The only thing I would show you is like our most expensive pizza was $2.50, I think then. And like a hamburger was like 30 cents. So it was a different era. This is a more modern menu. The prices finally just started jacking them up. Good. But then I think this is not too long, but I think before we closed, right, Kara? Isn't that, yeah, it's a more recent menu. So this is the things that were the most favorite at Clemente's usually. So I'll tell you a story about sauerkraut pizza last, but ravioli, salmon loaf, Italian meatloaf, the breadsticks were very popular. Vienna bread was all the bread we ever used. Pizza rolls. and the perch and walleye, especially during Lent, were huge. But the sauerkraut pizza, the reason it started, this is what Uncle Joe said, is he did it once for we had a bunch of leagues, and one was a German league, it was Peace Lutheran League, and just as sort of a joke, he put sauerkraut on their pizza one night, and they loved it. And then other people heard about it, and then everybody started wanting it. And then for some strange reason, sauerkraut pizza became seasonal, even though I think it was taken out of a size 10 can. But there was no season to it, but we only did it like during the holidays, like around Christmas, and at the end of bowling season. So those were the 2 seasons. It was never on the menu regular. So more pictures. We were in the news a lot. Best pizza, a lot of different things for downriver. Here's some, now we're getting into the bowling a little bit. These are the 6 lanes that we had. They were pretty good. So here's some of the leagues from back in the day. Uncle Joe is this guy right here. My dad's in one of these. I don't remember which picture. And then I don't know which league this is. But so just for example, only 10 years ago, I was showing this picture to Uncle Joe. He knew every person's name in these photos. I mean, yeah, it never stopped. There's a different league. I think my dad's in this one somewhere. And then these are just different leagues that bowled. Yeah, we used to have pin boys in the beginning. In fact, a lot of the people that used to come to Clemente's would say they were pin boys at one time. And these are the big leagues that we had, the most popular ones. Friday night, Old Timers, Great Lakes. And I got to mention Joe Kaiser while he's here, because Uncle Joe had 2 300 games. But then I was attending bar or working the league when you bowled your 300, right? And you guys won't believe this, but certain lanes were better to bowl on than other ones. He bowled a 300 on the hard lanes 5 and 6, which are the far ones over here. And Joe was a councilman as well in Lincoln Park. Pardon? Oh. And then these are some of the other folks. I put a Pepinas up there. Shorty's was what used to be Leone's. BC's Pizza, good guy, Brian. He was good friends with Uncle Joe, too. Belmar's is still there. Vito's is still there, too. This is when Jeff had us at the museum when they first started doing I don't know when you started that, Jeff, but 2014. This is when we did a special exhibit for Clemente's there. There's still a section in there for Clemente's. More Clemente stuff. We were in the news a lot. Uncle Joe was the grand marshal for the memorial not too long ago, I think, for the Memorial Day Parade. A lot of service members in the family. Let's see. Also, Uncle Chuck was an Eagle Scout. And a lot of Marines would come to Clemente's. Uncle Chuck also helped start the Yankee Air Force Museum out at the Willow Run. That's my dad in the middle. He was the first Citizen of the Year. There's a picture of Kara when she was state rep at that time, I think, raising that state run. Sorry, I have to update it. And that's when my dad died. They put a big sign up for him in the city. We sponsored hockey teams, baseball teams. And I should mention, where's Goodell? Is he here somewhere? You played on one of Clemente's. Didn't you guys win a ton of championships? Yeah, they were like one of the best, like an adult team, though. Was it underhand fast pitch, too, wasn't it, or was it slow pitch? Slow pitch, okay. This is my cousin Roberto. Not this Roberto, that Roberto. It's not moving. There it goes. More sponsors. We gave out gifts. I took a picture of these things. These are all things. These are some of the employees of Clemente's. There's a picture of my mom and dad when they were waitress and bartender. There are a lot of our former employees. I told you that was they loved the bagpipes, Uncle Chuck. More family, more relatives. That's Irene LeBlanc up there. So she helped introduce you to Uncle Joe. And she was one of the early families here because this was all French at one time, this whole area. She was one of the original sort of families, the LeBlanc family. There's a lot of other families still came from the area. Pardon? Yeah, through Miss LeBlanc. No, there's no Corleone. They don't exist. Jim Perry was supposed to be here tonight, but he played on the softball team as well. Ben Manson. These are all customers. And then we used to do this all the time, but we'd have, for about the last, since Clemente's closed, they would do a party at McCaffrey's Bar, which is in Lincoln Park, for around the holidays. And the place would fill up, all with customers. Like we did that all the time. Paul and Kara really did the most on it, didn't you guys? And then these are just, Hey, there's a picture of Jeff. Did you point yourself out, Jeff? Okay. But that's different Clemente signs around the world. More Clemente stuff. That's Uncle Joe. He helped get some kids a scholarship, one of his bowlers. Some stories about Clemente's. If anyone remembers Bob Talbert, he used to write about Clemente's Pizza too. There's Monica in this photo. And more bowlers, more Clemente's. This is when it closed. So that's one of our favorite waitresses, Diane Nation. That's her when we were tearing it down. And you can sort of see the old sign on the building when they tore down the bowling alley first. This is Ted Shave. If anyone ever went to Red Robin's, he was the magician there. So he would do, yeah, so he was the magician always, Ted Shave. Great guy. He died just during COVID time, I think. I went to his funeral. I can't remember when it was. So this is the last night, all the family here. A lot of these people are here right now. It was nice. Whoever photoshopped my head in made sure I had a mustache photo. I want to thank whichever relative did that. Thank you. And so this is, I only did this just so people know. So as Clemente's was closing, Uncle Joe started making deals to say who wants this, different people. So Belmar's took the whole bar. So you could still find Clemente's bar. It's at Belmar's Bowling Alley. So they just took it from us. Uncle Joe just gave it to them. They just had to move it. The Lincoln Park Fire Department took the alleys and cut them into long tables for them to eat on. So they're bowling alley tables there. The exhaust fans went to the Lincoln Park VFW. Wisconsin took back the bowling machines, the AMF, their headquarters. This is my favorite one. Joker's Biker Club, like a regular biker gang, they got all our booths, a bunch of our booths. And that's down in, I think it's Brownstown or somewhere. The oven went to Cleveland, and McCaffrey's got a lot of our stuff. This is the last article about Clemente's. This is my grandma and grandpa, sort of the last picture. And this is just a more recent thing, but we just dedicated a bench for Clemente's if you haven't been to the museum, but it's outside now. Jeff, they just put in the house. And the mixers who are here as well, Wave Mixers, you're back there somewhere. But we just did 2 benches, and that's where they're at now, and that's a picture of Aunt Rose by the benches. And tuta fanut, that's it. So thank you, that's it. So I don't know if there's any questions, but if not, we can finish it. No, it's fine with me, because usually people want to know if we're going to give the recipe out for the pizza, which we won't, and then other things like that, but that's about it. If not, no questions. Thank you very much. Okay.
Hey, thank you again. Another round of applause for Ed Clemente. Thank you. We're going to finish up in a few moments. The band is going to play a little bit. If you'd like, while they're playing, if you'd like to go back to the silent auction table, put your last bids in, and then we will finish up with that. And then we have a live auction to go at the very end before we say goodnight. So go ahead.
It's alright. It's alright. It's alright if you love me. It's alright if you don't. I'm not afraid of you running away, honey. I get the feeling you won't. Ain't no use in pretending. Your eyes give you away. Something inside you is feeling like I do. We've said all there is to say. Baby, break it down. Go ahead and give it to me. Break it down. Take it through the night. Break it down. I'm standing here, can't you see? Break it down, it's alright. It's alright. It's alright.
By name of item. So if you clear the item and your name, of course, will be there. The first would be the 1968 World Champion Detroit Tigers 2 total frame goes to Mary Jane Bell.